well to analyze all the areas. You really find out what you thought your problem was, oftentimes is something else. So, that's a great reason why I think I've had some growth this year, is really changing that level of thinking around the other people in the CEO group. All right. And that is my presentation. I hope you guys found a couple of nuggets here that may be inspiring. Obviously, stuff I got last year from Derek, Natty, Stephanie, Beth as well. So hopefully you enjoyed that. I love talking shop in life. So if you guys snag me, I'd love to chat with you and about you guys. Thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well done. Oh, yeah. Can you give that to Susanna? Excellent. I think it deserved a bigger round of applause than that. Excellent. Excellent. This it's nerve-wracking getting up here and doing that. And it's even more nerve-wracking being the first one. So let's move on. Let's stay in the moment. Let's do the next one. Sorry, that sounds dreadful. Let's bring up our next amazing Ultimate CEO finalist for 2023. And this person is really, in a nutshell, she is living proof that you can build a very, very successful business while having some fun. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Susanna Rogers. Make them wait. Keep them waiting. I love it.
It's pretty surreal to be here. Just 3 years ago. Let's see if I can make this happen. Simon. Going back. There we go. Anyway, it's really surreal. Just 3 years ago, I was here sitting way back in the corner. That was my very first mastermind event in New Orleans. I was looking around, I was like, wow, these people, they all know what to do. They all know what this business thing in physical therapy is. They have teams, they have employees, they have profit, they have revenue, and they know how to talk the business talk. And I said, well, here we go. And I really, really committed. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Susanna Rogers, and I own Runner's Edge Physical Therapy in Anchorage, Alaska. We are a niche sports physical therapy clinic, and we serve primarily runners and all things running related. This picture, really, this is me since I moved to Alaska in 1994. I spent way too many years working for somebody else and fulfilling their dreams in physical therapy world. And that led to burnout. And I came home one night, I said, I'm done. I don't have any goals to reach. I don't have any career path anymore. So I told that company goodbye, and I left that physical therapy clinic in 1918. I left without a plan. That's where the Batman in the 4-year-old in the Batman t-shirt comes in. I left without a plan. I knew what I was going to do, but I had no flipping idea how I was going to do it. I started Runner's Edge Alaska to provide the highest level of service to Alaskan community. I knew what that level of service was going to be. We are really highly skilled physical therapists, and there was just no way to provide this level of service there. So I started cash-based clinic. I'm really dedicated to personal development and growth, and I really, really, really love to share my knowledge and experience. Who am I? I grew up in socialist Czechoslovakia, where everybody had to conform to norms. Like everybody wears the same pair of high-waisted blue jeans and drives the same car, and you don't speak up because you can go somewhere else. I speak several languages. Ja hovorím po slovensky, po česky, ja говорю по-русски, понимаю по-русски, and I speak a little bit of English. So English is really my third language. I really showed up in Alaska in 1994, not knowing a lick of English. So here's that boy, me, in a t-shirt, thinking that I need to be very confident. So I started Runner's Edge Alaska in 2019. That was right before COVID. And I went straight in. I bought Paul's classes. I studied. I listened to his podcasts. And this was actually something that Simon still talks about. This was our very first annual planning meeting in 2020. And I sat in a class from this remote Alaskan cabin where you can only ski in. It was cold. It was like minus 17 degrees. And the internet, the cell connection was so slow, so I could only do audio, not video. And Simon still tells me about it. But I was committed. My biggest pain points is definitely me. You know, like when you start your business and it becomes your baby, and you do the sales, you do the marketing, you do the operations, you become a great PT to your patients, and then you do the finance. So it's really hard. It was really hard for me to trust other people, to bring them in a team, to do all these things that I was really good at, I thought, but I wasn't. Another pain point was I was not trusting the process. You know, like Paul always says, if you do your marketing right, in about 3 to 6 months, you're going to see influx of people. Well, I did the marketing. I put something up there and, waited a day or two. It's not working. I got to do something different. And it was my early stages of growth when I hired a marketing agency in Alaska. And I thought, well, they're Alaskans. They know Alaskans. They can help me get myself in front of my people in Alaska. Well, it didn't work out. I paid a whole bunch of money for nothing. So I pretty much fell flat on my face. Not trusting my people was my other pain point. When you know that you as a clinic owner, you know all the aspects of your business, it's so hard to bring somebody else in and tell them, you go ahead and do this thing, and I trust you. And then I ended up micromanaging a lot of stuff at the earliest. Being here on the stage, I think what would really resonate with the audience, I think if I bring some of the mistakes that I made. It was about a year into our clinic where I was still mobile by myself, driving my old car with my massage table to people's homes. And I was getting pretty busy. So I thought, well, if I hire another PT, maybe this PT can take some load off my shoulders. So I went through the whole hiring process. I read Paul's book and went through the hiring process, hired PT through COVID. So we hired through Zoom, didn't bring her actually in our premises. And what happened is now I had 2 PTs. I had the same amount of patients. They wanted to see me. I still did all the marketing and finance and everything else. On top of that, I had another PT that I had to pay. So I did not pay myself for that year until we brought our patient population up. So looking back, I think what I would do is I would hire an admin person first, somebody who can wear so many hats, who can do marketing, who can write a copy, who can kind of help me with the day-to-day operations and collect payments. I think that would have been a much better idea then. Paul always says, you need to get out of the treatment room. And it was when we reached about $200,000 revenue a year when I hired that new PT, but I was still in the clinic. So our beginning was kind of rocky. We were in business just another year over. We didn't grow that much. And then finally, during my CEO meeting last year, I got this kick in the booty. Why are you still doing in a treatment room? Get out. So that's where we started seeing the biggest growth when I actually got out of the treatment room. Another mistake was not trusting my numbers. You have to make it work on paper. If it doesn't work on paper, there's no potential for it to work in real life. So I spent a lot of time crunching numbers, trying to figure out, can I actually afford to go into a clinical space? Can I afford hiring an ops manager? Can I afford hiring an SCR? How is that going to help me grow? So if you do your cash flow forecast in your KPIs. If you don't do it, do it. Every week I sit down and do it first thing Saturday morning. I do my cash flow forecast because it helps me plan. And then you can see in the future where your clinic is heading. Tolerating staff. Culture is what happens in your clinic when you are not around, when the boss is not around. And I think it can be part of my mistake. It can be part of the environment that we brought this PT in. But when I was gone in Europe a while, we learned that this person was not really great fit into our clinic, and she's not working for us anymore. But when I let her go just recently, I had to kind of step back and think, did we make the right decision? And right now, I think we did. But you always have this thing in the back of your mind, did I do it right or shouldn't I have done that? So when you look at somebody's mistakes, the first time they make a mistake, it's usually your fault, you as a boss, because maybe you didn't make your processes right. Maybe your onboarding system was not right. Maybe your expectations were not clear and perfect. So the first time, it's your mistake. Second time, when they mess up, it's probably their mistake because they did not listen to you. But the third one is your mistake. And by third time, I was like, you're out. Because you were tolerating this stuff. So actually, the quality of our culture is much better now. So how does Runner's Edge Alaska look like today? I am so, so happy right now. We have 6 amazing staff. We have an ops manager that is just amazing. And maybe you're there somewhere, Gloria. You're amazing. You started as a marketing help, maybe 2-3 hours a week, and then you progressed to full-time SDR in the front desk. And then last year we promoted you to be the ops manager, and that was probably my best decision I've ever made, because she was able to take so much of my shoulders. She's running our weekly meetings, she's running our day-to-day operations. She manages the schedule. She makes sure all our PTs are on time. She manages our patient engagement, and she manages our marketing. So she is wearing so many hats right now, and it's just amazing. We have an SDR that Gloria hired while I was on vacation over the summer. So fantastic job. We have 2 full-time PTs, part-time PT myself, and a part-time PTA. We are right now 50% insurance-based and 50% cash-based. And the reason I made this decision just recently is because Alaska is still pretty good insurance-based. So we handpicked the insurance companies that can actually bring a lot of people in and they pay the most. And what we're using our insurance-based clients to upsell our wellness services. So we're really able to keep the 50-50 balance, which has been really great for our revenue. We are gaining the expert status in the community. I'm able to keep volunteering with the national ski team. I travel overseas. I'll tell you about it later. And we write a lot of freebies, a lot of copies. We're bringing ourselves up in the expert in the community status. Our revenue right now is pushing 7 figures. At the end of September, we already exceeded our revenue from last year, and we still have 3 months to go. Our rolling 3 is going to be over 7 figures. So that makes me very, very happy. Our last quarter was the best quarter we've ever had, and we made 30% of profit margin. So I'm super, super happy. How does my personal life look like? Well, I have my awesome husband sitting here as well, and I can't thank him enough that supported me through all this, cooking all the dinners and taking kids to schools and all that. And I'm able to volunteer my time with the national ski team. I already made it to 2 Olympic Games as a physical therapist. I'm looking forward to go to the 3rd one in 2026. I've been to 5 World Championships. I was there when we won our very first gold medal in cross-country skiing, which was amazing. And we as a family, we were able to take 6 weeks vacation in Europe this summer. And, for me, it wasn't really a vacation. I was still thinking about business. My thinking time, I cherished it so much. but I was not needing to be in the clinic, and my clinic just flourished. And you can see my family over here. Well, what's next? I'm really, really committed to growth. And you might ask, what is growth? Is it more revenue? Is it more staff? Is it more clinics? For me, it's growth personally and professionally. I really, really want to empower my staff and find the best in my staff wherever their area of expertise, whatever they want to be. I want to stabilize. I really want to make sure that our business grows without me being in a clinic all the time. I want to give back to the community. There are so many people and sport teams in the community that need a little bit of support. We're able to put one of our newest PTs into schools now to do coverage for events, which is amazing. I'm writing a book, which I've been writing for the last 2 or 3 years. I want to finish that in 2024. I have a podcast that has been amazing as well. And I really want to know I really want to have a choice how to spend my time. I really don't want extra clinics. For me, the growth is really having the choice how to spend my time. My dad is in Slovakia and he's pushing 85 years old. I really want to be able to just go there in a short notice and help him out. I want to spend time with family. We want to travel before kids go away in the college. What are the most important things I've discovered? Well, there's tons. And I think the most important question or most important thing is you have to support yourself, surround yourself with community like this. You can't do it on your own. And I joined CEO 2 years ago. And one of my biggest questions always has been, how big is big enough? I don't know. Is it more revenue? Is it more clinics? Is it more staff? What is it? And I am able to answer that question. For me, how big is big enough is something that supports my lifestyle. I really love what I do, so I don't see myself stepping back completely and letting the clinic run by itself. But I really need to step back maybe to 5 to 10 hours a week. Right now I'm at 15. I really want to support my staff and let them grow, let them take an idea and run with it. Personal growth is non-negotiable. It makes me better in my family, makes me a better wife, makes me a better boss if I grow. We really, really need to come back to basics. And what you see when your clinic grows, you get kind of stuck in that next shiny objects and the next thing, the next equipment, the next whatever that is. But many times we forget who are our patients, who do we want to serve, who are we as people. So getting back to the basics is super, super important for me. And then know your numbers and trust your numbers. Non-negotiable. And I'm really looking forward to dive deeper in the numbers to see what we can do in 2024. And also, I am the biggest asset and the biggest liability. I have to protect my time. I have to protect myself. I cannot treat 20, 25, 30 patients a week and still grow my business. I have to have that thinking time. And what I've discovered, I really have to remove myself physically from the clinic. I need to go away. I need to have time of maybe 7 hours a day to think and to develop my systems and to think what the future brings. So me being stuck in the clinic is really, really a big liability for me. So what I want to leave you is look around your staff that you brought. You did that, Keith. You brought all your stuff in here. You did that. Monday morning, when you step into your clinic and it's all clean and ready to see patients that day and everything is ready to go, you did that. So go ahead and break the glass ceiling because you damn deserve it. Thank you.
Yeah. Fantastic. Can you give that to Keith? Thank you. Amazing. Once again, Susanna Rogers. Awesome. I don't know if you've noticed, but we're 2 out of 5, but there's already a little bit of a theme. I'm not going to say what I think it is, but I'll just if you're going to start to see some commonality going through this, let's move on. This guy, he is in the tortoise and the hare. He is the classic hare. He started in Mastermind 6 weeks before he quit his job. He was determined to be successful, whatever the cost. Fantastic guy. Please make some noise for Keith Road.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let's make some noise. Simon, how about that suit? It is not duct tape. I touched it. But no, thank you for being here. I'm super humbled, honored, in awe to be on the stage in front of all of you here today, especially with the other 4 wonderful CEOs. Let's give a round of applause for the other CEOs. So as I get going today, I'm going to be doing a lot of walking back and forth because I'm ADHD, and that's what I need to do to occupy my brain. So, what the heck? There we go. All right, perfect. Backstory. I mean, honestly, I could probably spend 30 minutes on this. We could go a long, deep dive into the backstory, but I'll try to make it as brief as humanly possible. Where I'm from, Chancellor, South Dakota. That's where freedom is from. For those who don't know about South Dakota, thank you to my team for laughing. Come on, guys, let's go. I'm the youngest of 3 boys, population 278. So yeah, not a lot going on in Chancellor, South Dakota. So lived in poverty. We didn't have much growing up, right? But what we did have, we made the best of it. Like when you're a kid, you don't know these things, you just do, right? So I remember growing up, my parents worked very, very, very hard. And so my dad, he spent 43 years in a meatpacking plant. And my mom worked jobs as well too, but they did everything they could to provide for the family. Dad also played in a band. So after he get done with work, he would play in a band on whether they had a gig going on that week at a bar, or they were playing wedding dances on the weekends, or whatever the case may be. But that instilled the value of hard work for me. But not only that, but it instilled the value of an education, because I saw what they had to go through, and I saw the struggles. I lived the struggles, but I knew that was something that I did not want to have myself or for my kids when I eventually had children. So it was important for me to go and get that education, hard work, perseverance, get through the things that need to get done. I still remember getting hand-me-down stuff for Christmas. So my dad was part of the union as well, so there was a strike at the meatpacking plant, and we needed to get money for the family, right? So he got a job as a garbage man, and I remember he would get broken toys out of the garbage, and we would get those to play with. I remember there was one time there was a gentleman that was cleaning out his freezer, his deep freeze, and there was deer steaks and deer jerky and stuff like that, and he pulled it out because it's still frozen. It was good, no bacteria. But I remember we ate like kings. We felt like we ate like kings, but that's just about that's where we came from, right? But they did everything they possibly could to scrap and get whatever we needed to survive. So moving forward, value of education. Attended South Dakota State University. Go Jacks! Path wandered a little bit until I finally found my calling. So you guys want to hear my story about how I got into physical therapy itself, talk to me later. I'm not going to get into it because I could probably go on forever on that. But at South Dakota State University, I did meet my best friend and love of my life, Jenny Rode. Please stand to be recognized. The wonderful lady over there in the room. Love you, sweetie. And then from there, I went on to Des Moines University Osteopathic Medical Center to get my DPT, of course. But this is just the start, right? So that's a little bit about me. But what's brought me here today? How did I get on this stage? A lot what we talk about is what we've done in the last 12 months and things of that nature. But I can't talk about the last 12 months without talking about the last 3 years. So we're going to go back there because that has a big impact in story as far as what actually happened. So biggest pain points: overcoming personal and environmental adversity for the sake of my team. 2 points here. COVID, right? Everybody knew COVID. It didn't really exist in South Dakota, but thank you. But it was a serious threat, right? Because when it first came out, we didn't know what was going to happen, right? And so the thing that scared me the most about COVID was what the government actions were going to be about it, honestly, because I had worked my ass off to finally assemble this team. We had 4 people at that time: myself, 2 PTAs, and a front desk. My director of clinical operations, Megan Prescott, and Becky Bruning. Please stand up, be recognized. Those 2 individuals, ladies, are wonderful people, very instrumental as to why I'm here today. So I just got this team together, and I can't lose it now, right? And so what I started doing was devising a plan as far as what can I do to make sure that they're taken care of. What can I do to make sure they're taken care of? Not what can I do to make sure I'm taken care of, but what can I do to make sure that they're taken care of? Because it's not lost on me that my business is responsible for their ability to pay their rent, their mortgage, feed their kids, get Christmas presents, birthday presents, etc. So I had to do everything I could up to the point of business bankruptcy to make sure that they were taken care of, so that way I could take care of them. Got through that. COVID was doing its thing, right? And then I had a day that I'll never forget, obviously. June 19th, 2020, I was involved in a serious car accident, as you can see by the picture above. By all accounts, I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't have survived. The impound lot, I remember going, after the car accident, you got to go get your stuff, right? And this was the 3rd motor vehicle accident that they've ever seen that looked like this, where it didn't result in a fatality. So why? I don't know. Why did I survive? So I had this egg shaped around me in the car, right? And it was very vivid what happened. I was traveling at 65 miles an hour. A semi-truck trailer pulled out, backed onto a highway, actually, blindly. Conditions were right. Bushes, you can't see out the driveway anyways. Grass is tall, no shoulder. And I just happened to be finishing my lunch. Dropped my wrapper to the side, grabbed the napkin, looked up. Yellow banner, long load, white. It was like a movie, like you're floating. Everything slowed down. And then things would pick up and slow down. I lost my dad 3 years previous, and this was Father's Day weekend. So I can't help but think that Dad had something to do with that. But what did that do to me? Life was flying high until this happened. It's the biggest pain point, finding me. Why am I still alive? Survivor's remorse, unexpected panic attacks, PTSD, could happen anywhere, anytime. I remember I was in the passenger seat. We were in Jimmy John's drive-through, and I start freaking out for no reason, right? We're getting sandwiches. But these things would just come on, and I had no control over it. And it's super frustrating because I knew what was going on, but I couldn't do anything about it. I became a self-proclaimed recluse, I would say. Pre-accident, for those that know me in the room, I am a social butterfly. But this really pulled me back. I hated it. I dreaded it. In fact, I dreaded it so much that I needed to drink probably 1 or 2, maybe 3 drinks just to take the edge off. So to me, I had an identity crisis. I lost who I was. Who am I? What happened to me? Where did I go? Even the strongest armor has chinks. I tried to protect my employees from this. I tried to protect my family. I can't let them see me like this, right? And it all comes up to a breaking point. Where do I go? How do I go? How do I come back? How do I get back to being me? How do I get me back? Ultimately, it comes down to vulnerability. Regroup, refocus, reset. The comeback and the rebirth will be stronger than the former. Individually, it's a state of mind. I'm in control. I am in control on how I choose this to affect me, how I can let it drop me down or build me up. In business, we are in control of what we do for people and how we help them. The only limit that we have in life is what we tell ourselves what we can and cannot do. Enter PPM, October 2022. James Lawrence, Redefine Impossible. Who here was in last year at PPM? Yeah, great speech. Probably the best speech I've ever seen. Honestly, it was fantastic. But it reinvigorated, re-energized. I was in a very, very low point at that time. A lot of old memories coming up because a lot of the talks with settlement from the accident were happening, lawyers, all that kind of stuff, right? So you're reliving this stuff day in, day in, day out, and it's just so tired and exhausting, and it was wearing. It was very, very wearing, probably the lowest point in my life. Enter James Lawrence. I need to get more mentally tough. I need to redefine. I remember getting in the flight back, and I got to work. Redo the USP, redo the image, redo the brand, redo the colors. What is it that we're actually really about? Who are we? Who are we for? What are we about? Hope. That's what we're about for people. Hope for humanity. It's time to refeel, renew. It's a rebirth, rebrand, redefine, rise again. Like the phoenix out of the ashes, it's time to rise again. Impact physical therapy, how it looks today. Redefine impossible. Man, that hit me so hard. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what we frickin' do on a day-to-day out basis. We redefine impossible. We help people redefine the impossible. So many people that come into your guys' clinics too, right? That are told they will never be able to do XYZ again, right? You can't do this, you can't do that. And I say, bullshit. You can do this, you can do that, and we will get you there. How does the company look today? 2022, profit. Yes, that is a 10,000% increase. That is not a, that is a comma. That's supposed to be a comma there. And it's because we were doing bad, 2022, until we had a redefining moment. Jacqueline Beach, please stand and be recognized. Director of Operations right back there. That wonderful woman has been instrumental in our progress with this as well too. We reset, we refocused. Quarter four, $40,000 profit quarter four through 2023 up to 152,000 plus. Pretty impressive, huh? That's what we got to $1,400 profit last year because we were already 3,800 or 38,000 in the hole. Climbed out. How? Because we were focused. We refocused, resharpened our skills, put in systems. Chris Beach, please stand up. Sales manager, front desk, extraordinaire, follow-up systems. Absolutely the reason why. We kicked up the marketing. Paul's team, CMO, got consistent with the marketing, follow-up process, everything. Results are proofs in the pudding. Revenue increased 930,000 to projected 1.3 million. Cash upsells through October of last year, $35,000. From November 2022 to present, $294,000. Regenerative medicine, that's what we've implemented. We've brought together a system and a way of doing things from a package standpoint that not only are we providing absolutely phenomenal and exceptional patient care, but we are able to help the practice as well too, so we can get away from the crippling hands of the insurance companies. How's my personal life look? The business is beginning to now serve me instead of me serving it. Less clinical hours, more time for my family, more time to spend with my kids, more time to work on the business, not in it, and an ability to share experiences with my family. Focus on my passions. Multiple sclerosis research. We've had significant breakthrough findings that have never been published, yet we're working on the case studies right now, utilizing regenerative technology and significant improvement in quality of life for people with multiple sclerosis. More data is going to be coming on that, and I'd be happy to talk more about it in person if you guys want to pull me off to the side later, but it's absolutely phenomenal. We had one lady who was primary progressive phase, had MS for 30 years. She's now jogging. Pretty impressive stuff. Family. Some pictures there. So that's my 40th birthday. We went to Dallas for the Thanksgiving Day game, which is pretty awesome. Legoland. And then down in the corner there is South Dakota State University Jackrabbit National Championship game. That was pretty awesome. Go Jacks! My wife, Jenny, and I, golfing while we were visiting with Dr. Tom in Scottsdale. Not just family, but work fam. These people are instrumental and wonderful human beings. I love them. And we like to have a lot of fun. So while the talk was really serious at first, right? If you know me, you know that I'm a fun, silly guy, and we like to have a lot of fun. So we bullshit each other. There's a lot of banter in the clinic. We give each other shit all the time. It's absolutely fantastic. It's fun. The culture is great, and that's what it comes down to, is the culture. There's more. We get together, and it's truly like a family. We spend so much time with each other on the weekends. It's absolutely insane. It's like we're a legit family. So what's next? Oh. Medically run gym. Taz Wilson, please stand up. There's Taz. He's going to be heading our gym. Awesome guy. Phenomenal. Patient-client experience app for the clinic and the gym. Play your way to health. Rewards, quests, goals, milestones. Completion date, very, very soon. Stay tuned for this. Future expansion. Maybe a potential specialty clinic with MS research. We'll see. But the most important thing that I discovered, you and only you are in control of how you feel or allow yourself to feel about certain things or situations. Culture and values trump skill, seniority, and personalities, always and forever. It's the lifeblood of the organization, and if poison, it affects the entire ecosystem. Root out the bad to maintain the good. Strong teams build strong organizations. Lastly, the power is in your people, always and forever. It's true. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for those people over there. 100% accurate right there. Do right by people, and people will do right by you. Be there for people. Stand up for them. Do the right things for them, and they will be there and do the right things for you. Now, because we like to have fun and we're silly, I'd be remiss if I didn't leave this on one more vote. I have to have a shameless plug to ask for your vote for Ultimate CEO. So, when voting for Ultimate CEO, I want you to fuck me. For Ultimate CEO, vote for me. Thank you very much, everybody.
No, you're all good. You're all good. I'm there. I've got you. Thanks, sir. Can you give that to Joanne? Thank you. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Keith Road. Brilliant. All right. Again, that commonality was there. It was still there. I want to ask you at the end what you thought it was. No right or wrong answers. All right. So, our next Ultimate CEO. You ready for the next one? Yeah. Excuse me. I said, are you ready for the next one? An astonishing lady coming out. So if Keith in the everlong battle of tortoise and hare was the hare, I don't think this lady would mind me saying that she was the classic tortoise. Slow and steady wins the race. Didn't think she could do it. but she got there in the end. Ladies and gentlemen, make loads of noise for Joanne Pong! You gotta kill it. Get it. There you go. There you go.
Thank you. So just to give you an idea, I am deathly afraid of public speaking. So just like the song says, whatever it takes. So let me see if I can figure this out. So my name is Joanne Pong, and this is surreal. I never thought that I'd get here. Like I said, we'll see what happens. But anyway, so my backstory. This manual physical therapy was established in 2016. And I can honestly say that it was a midlife crisis. So I was working at a nursing home. And the reason I did that was because it offered flexibility in order to take care of my kids. And I reached a point where I was making $42 an hour. And I was told that I was going to get a $2 pay cut. And then I was told that I will never, ever get a raise again. And there's something about, quote unquote, reaching your maximum potential. I started to question it. Is this it for me? And so I started thinking, what are my next steps? And so I toyed with the idea of starting a business, but with 2 kids in private school, it was hard to imagine that I would take such a risk. And so I didn't for a while, but I'd talk about this openly. Now, to give you a backstory of why my daughter, my youngest daughter, is the one in the picture, and I might get a little emotional about this, she is my miracle worker. She was born 3 months early, and she was born with cerebral palsy. And so, thank you. And so I was doing physical therapy to her from the day I took her home. And because it was personal, it changed me as a physical therapist. I started thinking outside the box. And in the process, it changed me as a physical therapist professionally. And so I started to apply it to, my treatment. And I realized that what I learned was very effective in treating complex chronic pain sufferers. And so there was that need to share it. Like, what if I can help more people by doing this? But the only way to do that was to go out and start a business. But again, I couldn't take that risk. And so the only way I could take that risk was because I volunteered to be laid off. That was the best thing that happened to me. I felt like I needed that push in order to make that decision. And so when I started having the clinic, I realized that there were so many self-limiting beliefs that were getting in my way, and that was really affecting my rate of progress. Before I started to even open my clinic, I was already in the Paul Goff world. So I did the patient accelerator, and then it took me a long time actually to commit to the 4%, because there was the fear of there's no way I can afford to pay this amount every month. So I can so understand how our patients hesitate to convert, because I went through that myself. So in a way, it gave me a better understanding of what my patients are going through. And so because once I finally was in 4%, I used to label myself for many, many years. I labeled myself as the worst implementer. And I was in awe of how it seems to me like everybody was doing well except me. I felt so small. And the only thing that I could do was at least be in the world where everybody seemed to be getting it done, because I was thinking maybe if I'm in that world, somehow they'll drag me along. And so that's what I did. But regardless, I felt like I was just progressing too slow, and I felt like I needed more. And so I finally, went into CEO. But just so you know, the first time I applied, I got turned down. And the reason I got turned down was because when they asked me what my org chart was, with the marketing, the sales, clinicals, everything, the 4 pillars, it was all my name, right? But I wanted to be in CEO, so I felt like, well, I'll work towards making it happen, have different people there in order for me to get accepted. So 2 years ago, I did get accepted. And what I realized was that I was learning so much. It was like drinking from a fire hose. So I was gaining so much knowledge, but somehow I just couldn't implement. And it was so frustrating until I read the book, The One Thing. And I started applying it. And so, as you can see in my graph there, for Q1, I started to just focus on one thing, right? The overarching theme was just to improve my leadership skills. So I implemented the scorecards. I kept it in mind that my role is to make the staff happy. I'm not trying to make the patients happy. That is their role. And so the non-negotiables became truly non-negotiables, because before I would just move them, and that caused some frustration for my staff. And so once I felt like I was better at it, then I stepped back and said, what does my business need? And so for Q2, because I'm in Florida, I felt like I needed to step up more marketing. Now, mind you, because I'm such a, or what I call I was the worst implementer, I didn't really understand my financial dashboard. In fact, I think I was just filling out like 25% of it. And so when my very first CEO meeting, everybody in my group remembered it. I had the most tactical question: teach me how to do my numbers. And that was so important to me. I had 2 reasons for doing CEO. One was to understand my numbers, and the other one was to drop Medicare. So, anyway, because I was learning to do my numbers and understand what it meant, it allowed me to overcome analysis paralysis. So, I was making decisions better than I ever did before. And so, I recognized that if I spend more on marketing, um, that was worth doing it. Because previous to that, there was no way I would have spent like $5,000 a month. But anyway, and again, clarity of the numbers really helped me make the decision. And so I started having more leads. And so the next problem was sales. And so I obsessed over sales. I cannot tell you how many times I listened to the 5 series conversion or 5-part conversion series. I just wanted to really understand everything. And the biggest thing about sales I felt was that it was kind of difficult to convert them from leads to DV and from DV to plan of care. So I prioritized retention, because I felt like if I can keep people in the clinic for as long as I can, that means I will be more successful. And not only will I be more successful, I don't have to worry about getting as much leads. So I got to the point where my plan of care is now 25 visits. I feel like initially I felt like that was insurmountable, but somehow I made it happen. And so again, I think that sales was very critical and really understanding what people are going through. So once I got better at it, or that was my overarching theme, and I felt like, okay, we got better at this. I was training. Role plays was so important to us, and it got to the point where my staff would be asking for role plays. Who knew that they would be they would be asking for that? So again, empowering them. It was the understanding that if I want to improve the business by 20%, I have to improve the staff skills by 20%. So that was very important for me, for them to understand how to do sales. So by Q4, it was so weird because I felt like I had no glaring problem. And so during our CEO meeting, my question was, if I don't have a glaring problem, what problem do I solve? And I never forget what Simon said, which was, I want you to analyze why you're doing well. And whatever it is, just keep doing it. And so that's why for Q4, the goal was consistency. So I wanted to explain that because, again, being or what I used to be was a worse implementer. The game changer for me was to just focus on one mindset. Like, for example, start doing, stop planning. That was like for 2 months I focused on it, and that really helped me. So instead of trying to implement everything, I just focused on one thing. Do I think that's the right thing to do? I don't know, but it worked for me. And the other thing was to focus on one fundamental skill at a time. That really helped with the overwhelm. And so for the past year, what were the 3 points that were my challenges? One was the fear of dropping Medicare. But because of the clarity of numbers, I came into the realization that in order to replace 30 Medicare visits, all I needed to do was have 12 cash paying patients. So that really gave me the confidence to drop it. So I did this past year. And then the other thing was, for about 2 to 3 years, I was already charging $295. And for those people who know me from way back, I was the person that was only charging $100 an hour, because who on earth would pay me more than that, right? But with the help of being in this world, I did manage to go up to $295. But at that point, I thought, I think I've reached the max. There's no way that I can go beyond that. But I wanted to keep my staff because my staff were really good. And if you recall, my number one job is to make the staff happy. So last year, I wanted to give them a raise. But when I looked at my efficiency ratio, it wasn't going to work. And the only way it can work was to raise my prices past 300. So I managed to do that. So it's like 325, 300. Now, because I'm selling a 25 visit package, who knew that somebody would be willing to pay $8,000? But the only difference there is confidence. We did not change our treatment. It was just realizing that we were transforming lives. And because of that, we are worth that much. And then the other thing was, in order to be a CEO, the goal is to cut back on hours. But imagine if you're making $300 an hour and you used to see 6 patients a day. That's literally $1,800. If I know my math, it's $1,800 that I'm walking away from. So it was really hard for me to transition to backing off. But with the help of the CEO and the mindset shifts, the lessons learned, I realized that that was the right thing to do. So currently, I am only seeing 4 treatments a week, right? So from 20. And the crazy thing is, the less I work in clinicals, the better the business got. So how does the business look like today? So I transitioned this past year from hybrid to cash. And the overarching theme for the entire year was to stay short and fat. And so if you can see there, the staff, I never really added. I maintained a 4. Now, in all honesty, that was 4.5 before, but then now it's 4 plus CMO. So to me, it's about the same. And because I did that, and like I said, the basic fundamentals and really focusing on it one at a time, somehow our revenue went up by $170,000. And that was with no additional staff. And so the revenue increased by 48%. But honestly, I wasn't aware that our profit increased by 733% until I worked on these numbers, because Simon was bugging me to do it. So I was like, are you sure that's what's happening? But so yeah, that was actually a surprise. And then the biggest one is owner salary increase. I used to tell my staff that they made more than me, and it was the truth. I had the leftover, whatever was remaining. That's all I took home, and to actually have the ability to earn what I feel, finally, I feel like I deserve. That was kind of freeing. And just a side note, um, recently we dropped our hours from 5 days, the typical 5-8, right, to 4-10. And I wanted to share how did that come about? Again, with the understanding that my job is to make the staff happy. One of my staff, she's actually here right now, Myra. She's a unicorn. She's amazing. But she wanted, I don't know if you remember, there's this pre-morbid interview. Do you guys remember that? Right? So the pre-morbid interview is instead of waiting until they leave, you do an interview while they're still employed with you, and you ask the question, what do you love about this job, and what don't you like about this job? And she said she wished that she could drop to part-time because she would like to have one free day a week. And I knew that that was going to affect our revenue. And so what I did instead was I had to be creative, right? And so I remember Dan Kennedy and thinking, defy the norm. And I thought, well, why not create a 410 office hours? And so we started that. And what's very interesting about it is one of the extra bonuses is that we actually gained 2 treatment hours because we did that. And so it has gone well. So, what is my life looking at now? So, my life right now is that I only, my kids are gone, right? So, my oldest daughter has graduated, and the youngest one is currently a junior in college. Now, my little one, I call the miracle worker. This past summer, she actually spent 3 months in Taiwan, and so, anyway, I just had to mention that because I am so proud of her, my miracle baby. I wanted to include that picture on the, is it left? Right? So that was done on Father's Day. But I just absolutely love that picture. But just so you know, they broke that chair after that picture. But that was so worth it, let me tell you. Yeah. So, being an empty nester, I'm taking baby steps to go on vacation. But what's important to me is that now I have a choice. If I want to go on vacation, I can, right? So it's the choice that gives me the freedom. It doesn't mean that I have to take off for a month or 2 months, but to realize that I can do maybe a 4 or 5 day getaway. I can do that. To me, that is priceless. Um, just to mention the working less and making more during a health scare. So last January, my husband almost died. He was at the hospital for 1 month because of a health scare. And think about it, we thought we're going to enjoy our lives being empty nesters. And then here comes this health care, and he could have lost his life. But because the business was already doing well and I became less important, right? In other words, the business was running on its own. I was working less in order to take care of him and to support him. But what was crazy about it was that I was breaking revenue records. So how crazy is that to realize that I was working less but making more? So, and thank goodness for that, because with the medical bills that we had to come up, honestly, if this had happened the year before when I was still taking Medicare, I would have been in deep trouble. So, and again, the other one is I used to think that 3 day weekends were, I used to look forward to 3 day weekends. And to realize now that I have 3 day weekends every week, to me, that was worth, the heartache that goes along with owning a business. So, what does my 2024 look like? So my top priority is to become a local expert. I feel that if I do that, then it'll be easier to convert people. So that just happened. That picture with where I was interviewed on TV, that actually happened last week. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. The reason that I pushed for that interview is because I thought if I can survive the TV interview, I can survive today's event. Okay? Hence the song, Whatever It Takes, right? Yeah. Okay, so I'm too long, I know.
Have you seen the clock?
No, you didn't tell me that that's what.
We rehearsed this. Right.
I know, he told me
All
I
right.
was taking too long.
So
Okay,
just
whatever.
just before you wrap up,
Yeah.
right? A few years ago, Joanne came to me and I said, "Can we do an interview for Planet Paul?" No,
No.
I'm too nervous.
Yeah.
Now we can't stop her shutting up. We can't shut
I
her up.
know,
All right.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
Look, we've got to roll on. All right.
Okay.
So, all right.
I
So,
just have to say something. Can I
on.
say the last
go
one?
on.
Okay.
All right.
So what did I learn? Okay. So this is the only thing I want to say. Sorry,
Come on,
Simon. Okay.
It's a funny way of getting me
So
fired.
my most important lesson is that there is nothing to prove. I just want to be the best version of myself. I'm doing this for me, and you just get to come along. So in other words, I'm not doing this business for my husband. I'm not doing this for the kids. I'm doing this for me.
That was awesome. Yeah. You gave me the wrong one. You need to give that to Tom. Give that one to Tom. How much of that have you had? Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Once again, big round of applause, Joanne Pong. Fantastic. Fantastic. We rehearsed that yesterday. It took 14 minutes. That was because Joanne hadn't drunk any wine. All right, let's move on to our final member of the Ultimate CEO Competition 2023. They're still winning. All right, up your game, left-hand side. All right, our final finalist for this year. And this guy, well, he thought he hated people. And he tried to do it all without staff. But then he hired correctly. And then he built a $1 million business. Ladies and gentlemen, for the final time, please welcome Tom Padilla. Good luck, sir.
Thank you. And you guys will all see why this song is very relevant to my life very, very shortly. I just have to start by saying what an honor it is to be up here. I have been in this group for 3 to 4 years, and a lot of what I'm going to share were very, very painful lessons that I learned personally, but had I listened to others in this group, I might have learned them much more quickly. So hopefully in sharing my pains, you all will get to avoid those things. So my name is Tom Padilla. I am from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Anybody from New Mexico? I'm the only one from New Mexico and the only one from Arizona. We got New Mexico? Right on. What city? Farmington, very small town. Excellent. So I am from Albuquerque, New Mexico. So most people know that as a drive-through state. Other people know it because of Breaking Bad. And some people still think it's part of Mexico, and he can vouch for that. And I couldn't wait to go out to California when I got invited to go to school there. So I jumped at the chance to get out of New Mexico. And I had always wanted to go into business for myself. So a couple years out of PT school, I was working in your traditional PT mill clinics, and I really didn't like the state of the profession or the practices that I was in. And I had always wanted to go into business because of the autonomy, because I wanted financial freedom, and going out to USC, there was almost no chance of that after taking those loans. So I decided to take the jump and go into business with 2 partners. And we decided that California was not a great place to go into business. Arizona had direct access and cost of living was lower. So we moved out to Arizona knowing 0 people. And we tried to open a practice, and we found out that it was going to take 6 months to go and network with insurance companies. So we decided, well, we might as well just start at cash. This was 2016. So the only resource at that time was Jared Carter's podcast, which many of you may have found your way into cash practice that same way. And so we started trying to find our way. And about 8 months in, it was growing really slowly. Summer was about to come up, which means 120 degrees. And my partners decided that they were going to go back. to California. And so I decided to stick it out because I had already fallen in love with the way that we were practicing, and I knew that other people had figured it out. And so I thought I'd have a go at it. And so there I was, coming home to an empty 3-bedroom apartment in a city where I knew nobody, trying to start a cash practice. And so I reached around to masterminds, and I joined a different mastermind at the time that was all about hustle and a hustle culture. And it worked really well for a while, but after a couple years, you just get tired of the hustle and not being able to see through the trees, right? And at that time, magically, the New Patient Accelerator book somehow found its way into my mailbox. And then I took the course. And then after the course, they're like, come to Vegas. And I said no about 10 times. And somehow at 3 a.m., the morning of the conference, I found myself driving to Las Vegas. One of the best decisions of my life. So I learned from this guy named Paul that business was a game with rules, and if you learned the rules and the strategies and the principles, that you could actually win at it. So I was hooked. That if I focused on self-development and leverage, that I could actually have the success that I had wanted. So from there, I took everything that he had, all the courses. I even followed his own mentor, Dan Kennedy, and then I joined CEO, right? Because I figured if I surrounded myself with other smart individuals, that some of it might rub off on me. And so through the years, I've learned a lot of lessons from my CEO group, just watching them learn and grow. And I honestly wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the individuals in that group. So I thank each and every one of you. So I have 3 lessons to share with you today. My business was running me. This is a picture of my son, Jack. I asked my wife for a picture of him crying. Less than a minute later, it came through. I don't know what she did, but maybe she just had it, right? So I never had time for financial management, and I just always found myself in a place wondering if the juice was worth the squeeze, just hustling again and again. And I would always hear people say, well, you need to find reports that work for you. You need to have it simple in a way that helps you make smart financial decisions to run your business. So I would try cash flow forecasts. I read the book Scaling Up, and then I was like, now I need 7 financial reports. And I'm the type of person that is kind of all or nothing. So I'd get overwhelmed and just resort to the mindset, well, if I just make more money, I won't have to worry about managing it, right? Has anybody ever felt like that? And so it worked for a while until about 2 months before my son was born. We had just closed on our second house, and I figured out that we had made no money in the last 9 months, and $30,000 was missing from the clinic, just hadn't been collected. And that was a sobering moment for me because of everything that I had wanted to go into practice for. In the past, when I had taken these leaps, I had only put myself at risk, but now I had other people to think about. So that was a unique kind of feeling of failure, right? And so I had a month off for when my son was born, and I just happened to be thumbing through a stack of Paul Goff's materials about that high that he sends us year after year. And I found an August 2020 special report, the 3 key ratios that you need to run your business. And it talked about labor efficiency ratio, profit margin, and cash flow. And I thought, what the hell? Let's try one more thing. So I put this report together, and I was absolutely floored. A, at how simple it was, and B, at how much clarity it gave me, and C, how if I had been doing this before, I would have never put my family in this position. So from that point, I made a commitment to run this report every single month. And then I took the finance course, which was offered before, I think it was PPM last year. And I learned about all the R3, R12, all the ratios reports. And I started putting those into practice every single month. And now what has come from that is the ability to run a report once a month that takes a single hour that gives me absolute clarity over my business. And I learned that I didn't need all the reports. I just needed to try a bunch of things until I figured out what worked for me. And that's what worked for me. And so as a result, our labor efficiency ratio went from 1.6, which for those of you who don't know, that is very bad, to 2.8, which is pretty good. Our profit margin was less than 5% at the time I initially ran this, and now it's 30. And then our cash flow was actually negative, which that's where the $30,000 went. And then it became very positive. So that was the first lever that I pulled, was just getting really clear on my numbers and finding reports that worked for me. The second thing that I did was I put myself squarely in the sales seat, and nobody did a discovery visit at my clinic except for me for the next year. And I learned everything that I could about my target market, including what materials they responded to most, and found that when my clients would listen to my podcast, they would basically finish my sentences during our discovery visits. And so we started sending our podcast to them in every way, shape, and form to basically ensure that they were listening to the podcast before coming. So those were the 2 levers financially. The second thing that happened was I had a lot of difficulty finding and establishing a culture and finding the right people. So the backstory is that I had one PT that got married and moved away. I had another PT that left and stole clients. I had another PT that got poached. And this was all within a very short period of time. My marketing assistant decided to move to the Philippines. And so all these things kept happening to where I actually reacted to that pretty poorly. And it's one of those things where it's not the event that was the issue, but how I responded to it, which is I started hiring from kind of like a scarcity and survival mindset. Okay. And I forgot and I lost sight of who I was supposed to be hiring. And so at the time I was using a lot of copy and paste job ads, just trying to get people in quickly, not really listening and to the meat in their interview questions, and then just hiring them if it sounded mostly good. And what actually ended up happening is I created an extremely toxic culture where I actually did not like going into my clinic. I hated the culture that I had created. And it was starting to give me a lot of anxiety. I would have sleepless nights. I would have chest pain. And these were issues that I had never had in my entire life. So that was a big wake up call, because I actually got the reputation in my CEO group as the guy who hated people. And it was a running joke, and it was a vocal joke. So it starts to kind of set in after a while that, like, hey, this might be an issue. And so I started to come to the conclusion that I must just be a terrible coach. I must be a terrible mentor, or I must just hate people. And Paul would always say, you have to find a love for developing people. And I would try to develop these people, and I couldn't love it. And so anyway, at its worst, it got to the point where I absolutely just hated even coming to work. And Paul called me out during a CEO meeting and said, hey, you sound pretty resentful about all this. And that kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, because I hadn't quite pegged the emotion yet. And I had to do some reflecting, and I figured out I was very resentful, but it wasn't really in the people. It was in myself for not having slowed down enough to figure this out, and for actually contributing to my own misery and hiring people that I didn't even enjoy coming to work with while making no money. So I was in business. I hated my clinic, and I wasn't making any money. It was absolutely miserable. And so that was a big eye-opening moment for me. And I decided, I'd rather tank this thing than continue going with these people doing the things that we're doing. What do you think happened next? So I got really clear on my core values. I had some tough conversations over the next couple months. And this was August to October last year. 100% turnover. Either you left on your own or you were fired. And so I started from the ground up. I tanked my entire business about a year ago, 13 months ago. And what happened then was I retooled my job ads. I retooled my interview questions. I reached out to a good fit PT. I hired him on part-time, 30 hours a week. I reached out to an operations manager who I'd interviewed a year ago and convinced her to help me 15 hours a week. And we committed to the process of hiring correctly and finding the right people. And over time, what actually happened was when we hired the right people, turned out I was never a bad coach, never a bad leader, never a bad mentor. These people I could lead, they were a pleasure to lead, and we're having a lot of fun. So I blamed myself for the wrong problem all along. And it's because I hadn't taken the time to actually sit back and reflect that I just screwed up on hiring. None of the other stuff was actually an issue. So the third lesson that I had was growing and retaining good clinicians. So as I shared with you, we had a little bit of turnover, which created some issues. And when I first started my cash practice, we were niche. We were CrossFitters and runners. But over time, I developed a second niche, which was chronic low back and hip pain for people who have had failed conservative management. And as I started to scale my practice, I knew a couple things. This market would pay the most money, so you could scale your practice the most because you have the most visits and they're willing to pay the most. And I knew that I didn't want to have guilt when handing these clients who had failed conservative management over to somebody who had maybe been out for 3 to 6 months of school. I also knew that I didn't want to pay top dollar and compete against hospitals for talent. So I knew that I had to figure out a way that if I didn't want to give up this market, I'd have to get clinicians to a high level quickly. So I had to basically, the challenge at my CEO was to develop a world-class training system. And so what happened was I thought that putting these PTs in a room one-on-one with people and giving them lots of training was going to be the ticket. And it was just taking too long. It was taking 6 months to train them. And as I shared with the turnover being 12 to 18 months, especially during COVID and all that, I was only having them be efficient for about 6 to 12 months before they would leave. And so I realized if I didn't get this training time down to a couple weeks at the very most, that we were going to have issues, or I'd have to change all my marketing to fit a different market, a more simple market, or I'd have to pay top dollar. And so I was listening to a lot of Paul at the time, and he always talks about thinking strategically in business versus tactically. So I started kind of applying that mindset, trying to teach my PTs to think strategically. And then another influence in my life at the time was Ray Dalio, who's a hedge fund manager, who basically scaled himself out of his hedge fund business by teaching a decision-making framework where he would give an input of data and his employees would have to follow a decision tree to come to conclusions that were similar to what he would come to. So I came to the conclusion that if I could put together some sort of decision-making framework that taught my PTs to think strategically and come to the same decisions, that would be the answer. And so I put my mind to that task, and we've been very successful at that. And what has resulted from it is within a few short weeks, patients can no longer tell the difference in who's treating them whatsoever. They're very happy to see whoever, which is very important in our cash pay model, because I wanted to prevent, as I shared with you, one PT took a bunch of clients and started their own practice. I really wanted to maintain that everybody treats everybody kind of model. And so the coolest side effect of putting together this system, which taught these PTs to be highly confident and efficient in chronic low back pain, was that they're now so confident in their skill sets and so excited by the prospect of helping patients who have failed 5 or 6 other places with conservative management, that they have actually started recruiting other PTs to come interview for us. Even when we're not having interviews, I'm constantly getting people referred to me by my physical therapists to interview for when we are open the next time. So that has been just really eye-opening for me, because I realize that in this type of market, when we are cash pay, at least I feel that when you've got complex patients that you market to, your systems and have to match your market, and the treatment system is very much part of the patient experience. So this is how my company looks today, keeping in mind that I tanked it a year ago. So we're back up to 6 staff, 2 PTs, 1 massage therapist, a front desk, and that ops manager. I've gradually brought her on full time. This time, last year, revenue growth had slowed to just 10%. And this year we're on track for 50+%. So we're going to go from 670 to 1,070,000. That's the most growth we've had since 2019. Profit was just stuck at that $50,000 to $75,000 mark the last few years. So our profit margin was 10% last year, and most of that was a big sale we had at the end of the year. And this year it's going to be over 300,000. Thank you. I've gone from 30 treatment hours a week to just 15. And this is how our personal life looks. More travel with my beautiful wife, Claire, who's there today, and my son, Jack. This is us in Crab Island, I think. Anybody ever been to Crab Island? It's a blast. And then up at the cabin teaching him what a horse was not too long ago. So now I'm able to support my family fully, which is a complete 180 from, oh shit, we just bought a house and we're having a baby and we're missing $30,000. And if Claire wants, she can quit her job and, I don't know, do whatever she wants, help raise Jack. So I go to the gym every day, as Michael was saying, like I make it a big priority in my life to make sure that I take care of me so that I can show up the way that I need to. A lot of travel for learning, a lot of Dan Kennedy conferences, a lot of Paul Goff stuff. So learning is one of my favorite things to do. So I make sure that I bake that into everything. And then I get to work from home 1 to 2 days a week, which helps me to connect with Claire and Jack a lot more. And I just have a great time watching him grow. So what's next for me is I want to pursue bigger impact. So I've taken one of my big goals is just to impact the PT profession in the biggest way possible. So especially when it comes to chronic low back and hip pain, it's just such a big market, and there's just so much bullshit treatment out there, to be honest, and like opiates are fucking rampant. You can tell it's a passion point, right? So anyway, I have packaged our basic treatment model, and we're actually in application with F. Scott Fail, some of you may know, to make that a CEU course for clinicians. We're just going to rinse and repeat. So I just want to keep adding clinicians to my current clinic, which is a little bit different. I used to want to have multiple clinics, but now I just want to focus on this clinic and helping other clinicians to level up in their treatment methodologies. And we have plans to take 6 weeks away next year. Who knows? Maybe London, all expense paid. Right? So here's the most important thing that I've discovered. I really needed to sit down and figure out my own values. And for me, that was quite hard. And I don't know, a lot of times core values can seem really elusive. And it took me years to figure out what actually were my core values and what would make me happy and what would piss me off, and help my staff understand these are the things that make me happy. These are the things that piss me off, without it being to them like 100 different things. It ends up being character traits. And I needed to then know how to find people that shared those values. And I needed to actually study leadership. So John Maxwell, 21 Laws of Leadership, that's a great book that was just on repeat in my car. The second thing was I had to find a way to manage finances in a way that worked for me. There's so much out there. There's so many complex models. Don't approach it in a way that I have to learn all of this. Approach it in a way of I have to sample all of this, and then the things that give you the comfort to make the decisions in the way that you want to, like that's what you need to latch onto. And it doesn't have to be everything, but I highly recommend those 3 ratios. And then the third thing was I really felt like we nailed it when our patient experience and treatment system matched our market, and I could no longer I can actually leave the clinic and know that every single patient is going to feel taken care of and that there's no perceivable difference. And I think that's the last slide. I hope these things have been lessons that you guys can learn from my pain a little bit more than, and hopefully faster than I did. So thank you for your votes. Right, Keith? Do I do this? Thanks.
Well done. Thanks. Well done. All right, fantastic. Once again, please, a massive round of applause for Tom Padilla and your ultimate CEO finalists. Amazing. Did you find yourself in some of them? Did you hear them stories and you think, that's me? Yeah, that's me. Oh, that person sounds like me. Yeah? Yeah. The thing I got all the way through was one word. What do you think it was? Chris? I love putting people on the spot. It's great. Got the power I have stood up here. One word, 2 letters. 2 letters. One word. Me. Me. Sounds selfish, but it's right. It has to be with you. It's got to start with you. Everything else, if you're not looking after yourself, I love what Joanne said. I'm doing this for me. You just get to come along. That was fantastic. All right. So, you can vote. You can vote for who you would like to see win the all expenses paid trip to the UK. How can we get the voting link up? There we go. Let me get out of the way. Oh, there's a big... Someone told me I look like I've just been snapped off the top of a trophy. So, scan the QR code or use the link, the bit.ly link, the very long bit.ly link, or they will be getting emailed out to you. For ease, I would probably use the QR code. Simon, stop walking around on the stage and getting in the way. We're trying to scan the QR code. Yeah, I can hear you. It's okay. There you go. So, vote for your winner. Personally, I think all worthy. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely amazing. Fantastic stories. Loved it all. And I'm looking forward to seeing who you guys vote for. So get your votes in. And again, just think, who's the person I resonate with? Who's the person I find myself like? Because there will be. There's, these guys that stood up on this stage, this didn't happen overnight. It took time. There'll be people in this audience right now that it might be their first event, that might be quite new to our world, who at some point will be stood up on here going, Simon, I really don't want to do a speech. I really don't want to do a presentation. Then you'll be amazing. So it's going to happen. So get your votes in. There we go. We're doing well on time as well. Well done, it, guys. Paul's like, look, you need to make sure we keep them good on time. You were all pretty good, so thank you for that. Speaking of which, so our next session is Mr. Marcus Lemonis. All right. Please, please, please be back in your seats, sat down, ready to go.